And speaking of annoying,
Annoying.
we're here. We're here.
We're here.
We're here to talk about Ant-Man, Quantumania.
Yes.
Quantumania.
I
Yeah, so
don't think that was the song from the movie at all.
it's not. So funny thing, this is the first MCU movie in a very long time that we
Sam?
did not see together.
Correct. This is the first movie I may have ever seen in the theaters by myself.
No.
Yeah.
Ever?
I think I told you the story last time.
I think
The
so.
last one I remember trying to do was one of the recent-ish Mission Impossible movies. And by recent-ish, I mean like 10 years ago.
All right, I think he says it was like
And they wouldn't let my friend
Ghost
in the
Protocol,
theater. Yeah,
right?
they wouldn't let my friend in the theater because she was so late.
Uh,
And I just walked out because I didn't want to see a movie by myself.
yeah, that kind of would be that loser.
Yeah.
Hey man, I love going to movies by myself.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a crowded theater and like I know that like other people are there to have fun.
Other
Like
people were there to have
that's fun by
fun.
me.
I had a seat in between me and the other people, so I knew no one was going to take that seat.
So
I
question,
was comfy.
you went, so Katie and I went on opening night.
Yeah.
Marvel movies historically are always very, very busy on opening nights.
Yes,
Yeah.
busy.
And it was packed.
Yeah.
How was yours? Because you went on a Friday midday.
Mine was full. I mean, it wasn't packed, but it was. I think there were people in every row. There was one. I mean, there was one seat of space between me and the people like next to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of people in there in that showing of Ant-Man.
Good.
Yeah.
Because this is probably make it or break it, I think, for Marvel. Like if this phase does not land, then I think they're in trouble.
Yes.
Right? So we just came out of phase 4. Our last phase 4 movie was Black Panther.
Right? Which I haven't even looked at our itinerary. Are we just talking about the movie? Or are we just talking about the movie and the big picture? I feel like
I think we have to. I think we have to, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, and okay. So going into the movie, I saw a few reviews, and I did hear some people go like, "This movie feels like too much setup."
No.
Like there's this just serves nothing but like as like filler for everything that's coming down the line. And I'm like, I feel like there's still a story that's very centered around Scott and Cassie. I do agree that Evangeline Lilly is sidelined a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, you
She
can't
has
have
stuff to do.
She has stuff to do, but
I heard
this story is about Scott, Cassie, and honestly, Janet.
She may have had more to do in this movie. I could be exaggerating. She may have had more to do in this movie than Natalie Portman had to do in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh, 100%.
Which
100%.
is sad.
Very sad. I still, to this day, I was looking at my letterbox. I gave that movie stars. I was too positive on it.
You were too kind to that movie.
We were.
Upon initial viewing. That movie soured over time.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I might be too harsh to this movie, but I'll stand by I'll try to stand by my critiques.
Okay.
During this episode.
So very, very quick, non spoiler stuff, because honestly, this movie, you kind of gotta talk about spoilers.
Yeah.
Because who the fuck is watching the 30-second Marvel movie without?
Yeah. I have a friend who's always like, well, now to get this, I have to know what's happening before, and I don't like that. I'm like, well, hop to it, buddy. It's like, if you care, then watch, and if you don't, then like,
but also
you've had every opportunity to tap out.
All right, so hear me out. It sounds like a lot, right?
No, you just need to watch the Avengers movies.
I think so. I think there's a couple things that you can kind of skip.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if you're trying to catch up to Endgame, you absolutely should watch almost everything before, except maybe like some of the Thor movies.
I think it depends. I think you can. There's many. Just like there's many ways to watch the Star Wars movies if you want somebody to like get into it. I think there's many ways to quote unquote catch up on Marvel.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so let's go ahead and just even, I would say I really like this movie. I liked it more than Love and Thunder.
Yes. Significantly.
I had more fun with this than Wakanda Forever.
This is more fun than Wakanda Forever.
I don't know that it's.
I'm using fun very intentionally. I don't necessarily I don't necessarily equate fun to good in what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more fun.
it's not as good as
Wakanda Forever.
Black Panther 2, but like I think it's I am more likely to rewatch this
Yeah.
than I am to rewatch Black Panther, and it's 2 hours and 40 minutes of sad.
Yeah, I don't even know. So I think I agree. I don't know. I don't know how confident I am in saying it's not as good as Black Panther 2.
Okay.
Um, and if it's not as good, then like if it's not as good as Black Panther 2, I feel like it's just like marginally so. To me, I think actually they both share similar problems, but that movie is sad, right? Kind of
Mhm.
against its own. As we talked about in our review, it's sad for reasons like it's sad for reasons beyond its control,
Yeah.
right? Um, this movie doesn't have, other than potentially COVID, this movie doesn't have like a lot of like external factors
Hmm.
dictating its quality or lack thereof. Um, but it is, you do sit through this movie and you have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so let's go into it. So we start with Scott kind of riding the coattails of his fame,
yeah.
right? You know, the joke in it is whether or not he is as instrumental
In the
in like the overall beating of Thanos.
well,
And yes and no, right? It's
yeah,
like, yeah, if it wasn't for him giving Tony the idea of using the quantum realm,
right.
like maybe eventually Tony would have figured something out, but it's the reason why it only took him 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know how interested Tony would be in the quantum realm without like,
As far as we're
yeah,
aware, he has like no real
knowledge of
knowledge.
it. Right.
Like his stuff has always been more like what's the threat happening out in space.
Yeah.
And I think that's what eats up most of his like interest.
And it's not that Tony was just missing knowledge, he was missing both knowledge and motivation.
That too.
So you need both those pieces to get him to
Hmm.
maybe
And
skip.
but that does kind of come into play a couple of times where like they're like, yes, like you and your friend Captain America went to like save the world, blah blah blah. So it was very good at like kind of letting you know that like he's kind of being silly, but he kind of feels like he just wants to lay low.
I feel like the movie tells us that.
Yes,
I think if I were, okay, so kind of jumping ahead, but this is where this point is relevant, so I'll say it now.
sure.
I think if I were to play script doctor for this movie and if I could just change like one part, I would elongate the opening. I don't know if you want to call it an act or a few scenes. Everything before the quantum realm.
Yeah, like the intro is very fast.
It needs more.
Yeah.
It needs more.
Yes.
Because I see that throughout later the parts, Cassie is like kind of criticizing him for not like.
Doing much.
But we haven't seen that. I mean, like he wrote a book, like he's kind of going about his life, but like the film hasn't shown us that like he's neglectful
Hmm.
of something.
Yeah. And in a way, I guess also I would have liked to see more of Cassie doing stuff to
Yeah.
show that she is doing because we are told she's in jail
Right.
and we see her get bailed, but that's it.
Yep.
We don't know what else she's been up to. And granted, some of that could have happened in the 5 years, since um, Scott went missing. But I also do kind of not love that part of the story
Yeah.
because I don't like kids,
Right.
especially movie kids. Movie kids piss
Right.
me off. But I always felt that Scott and Cassie's relationship in the movies
Cassie's
was
great.
like very adorable and very
Yes.
cute. And seeing them like kind of at odds.
It's ugly. I love it.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
rabbit, it's
Yeah.
so ugly. But yeah, so like that was I was like, I kind of don't like that story beat. But
I need a clarification question.
yes.
The movie says that she was working on her like beacon down to the quantum realm.
Yes.
When does she start working on it?
She starts working on this in the gap years between um when they get blipped out.
So during the blip,
Yes.
while Scott is down there,
Yes.
who is she working on it with?
Just herself. She says I found some of Grandpa's like journals and notes.
Okay.
and I started like researching. But obviously, like it wasn't until they came back that she was able to like fast track all this.
I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp in ages.
Hmm.
Does she have like a relationship with the Pims in that movie?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
I know that like there is some stuff I think with her,
Yeah.
but not extensive.
Yes.
But I think if you know your dad has access to this technology to shrink down and all this shit,
Right.
like maybe there's something.
You could fiddle. There were parts where I was watching, I'm like, wait, it almost made it seem like the Pims were there with her and like Ant-Man was
Mm-mm.
present, but I'm like, but that's not true because they were blipped.
Yes,
Yeah.
all three of them.
Yes.
Yes,
Anyway.
but yeah, that again, it's those things that you kind of mentioned,
Yeah.
like could have been tied up a little bit better.
Do we have indication how long this is after anything else?
Um,
How long after the blip? How long after any other movie that's been out?
this is why I wish I would have been able to see this movie twice this weekend, but
Yeah.
it's just so much to do.
Right. So much to
So
do.
much to do.
Once again, I have no respect for bored people.
No,
Yep.
busy times.
Busy times.
Um, it's definitely within like a couple of years.
Okay.
So like I feel like we haven't gone past like 2024
Yeah.
because like the events of Endgame take place in 2023. He has to have had enough time to write a book.
We've presumably been through Loki. Season one.
Yes. Yeah, that's a tricky question because technically speaking, Loki takes place out of time.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
that's that's its own
I
whole.
had this conversation at church today. Not about Loki, but things that are in of time and out of time. So
Yes, and
yeah.
technically speaking, quantum realm stuff
Is out of time.
is out of time,
Yeah.
right? It's weird and wacky.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like super fast.
Oh,
Sometimes it's super slow.
also getting ahead of myself. And I know that you said I also wish I saw this twice. Did this movie confirm that alternate timelines and alternate universes are the same thing? Because we've had discussions in the past
Hmm.
where I've explicitly asked, are timelines and universes different? And I
Hmm.
think the answer was no. But there are points that
No, the
Kang
answers
makes.
are the answers are they are different.
There's a point in this movie where it seems like Kang is equating timelines and universes.
Tricky,
Tricky,
tricky.
tricky.
It's tricky.
Yes.
It's tricky, tricky, tricky. Yeah. So and I know we've definitely touched on this before, but
Yeah.
I think the difference is within one universe you can have
Multiple
multiple
timelines.
timelines,
Yeah.
right? But like that's the reason why in Avengers they go to different timelines and they're all still the same Avengers. Where there's Tony, there's
Correct.
Hulk.
Yeah.
It's just you're in the same universe, just in a different point
Different
in
point in
time.
time.
Whereas in
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness and also in Far From Home, like sorry, not Far From Home, No Way Home,
Well,
Spider-Man.
well, but in Loki, those are alternate timelines, but they're clearly alternate. They're very alternate
Yeah,
locus.
but that's because the TVA deals with all of them.
It deals with
They deal
timelines.
with timelines and multiverses.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's also why in the what's it called? Yeah, that's why we have like the three different Peters,
Yeah.
right? They don't look the same way that like Tony looks in Endgame at
Right.
different points where they travel, right? Different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's also gets weird because they're also kind of playing fast and loose with the rules,
Correct.
right? Like, how long was Janet in the quantum realm? Even though it's only supposed to be 30 years,
Yeah.
but how long realistically is she actually gone?
I forget. Time goes faster in the quantum realm, or time goes slower.
It depends.
It
And
depends.
he says like there's time dilation. Some of it is
Yeah.
the same. Some of it is like way faster. Some of it is way slower.
Yeah.
Because the ants,
The ants.
the
I
Deus
love.
Ex
I
Machina,
love the
I
ants.
fucking love the ants.
Yeah.
And I like that they showed them in the beginning,
Yes.
right? Because like first couple of scenes, they're
They
like
show them at the beginning and then not again
not
until
again.
until
But
the,
it's true because I did notice that he was fucking with his like,
he
and
was.
I was watching the movie. I was like, does fucking Michael Douglas wear a
A
hearing
hearing
aid?
aid. That's what I thought too.
And I was like, I don't remember him having to wear a
Yeah,
hearing aid. But I remember, yeah, he wears that hearing aid in all the other movies because that's how he talks to
for
the
the
ants.
ants. Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's what he's fucking around
Mm.
with. Okay, so that does make sense. We are introduced to the quantum realm, right, which
Hmm.
is our big CG Alice in Wonderland style
A beautiful
place.
CG Alice
You
in
know, I
Wonderland
don't give a fuck
styles.
what people say.
I love the laser battle.
It looks really cool.
It looks really cool. I love the laser battle.
What's the laser battle?
This is a common critique of the Marvel, especially the shows that they divulge into like laser battles.
Are you talking about like end
Like,
of the where they're like,
correct.
okay, gotcha,
Correct.
gotcha.
But if I am seeing superheroes whose power it is to like shoot lasers,
Yeah,
I would expect a CGI laser battle. Now, that's not excusing other narrative flaws.
for
However,
sure.
like,
When that's happening,
yes,
it's fine.
I love a good laser battle,
Yeah,
of which this movie had a great laser battle.
I had a few actually, I
Yeah.
think. The so they go down to the quantum realm and
Mhm.
they mention Janet, right? Because I like the way they kind of allowed Scott and everybody to communicate.
Yeah.
Because in Guardians, they have like the universal translator, right? Which is if you watch the movies, you can see that Peter Quill has like a device in the back of his ear,
Hmm.
and that lets him talk to anyone
Anyone.
essentially in English, right?
Yeah.
And while you're in the quantum realm, you're not going to use the same tech because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But they basically make them drink this guy's
Drink the
goo,
goo. Drink
who is
the goo.
drink the goo thing was great. It's actually the guy from the other movie.
Who
Um,
is it?
Damien does something. He's the guy who plays Polka Dot Man.
Oh, you
Uh,
know what's it? Because okay, that makes sense. When I was watching it, I was like, is this Michael Cera or Jesse Eisenberg? And I never bothered to
yeah,
Google.
he has like a weirdly high pitched voice,
He has a Jesse Eisenberg voice.
very JC.
Let's
Yeah,
call it what it is.
yeah. But it's the kind of nice thing is that like this is the guy who also plays a character in the Ant-Man movies,
Yeah, even
right?
them.
He's the Russian like contact that they work with. And
Mm,
I don't know if that was like a, well, we want to have him back, but
right.
he's not gonna do much. Same with Michael Pena. He's not in this fucking movie at all.
So James Gunn's brother played multiple roles
In
in the
this,
MCU.
yes and no. He
Yeah,
plays Kraglin
yeah.
in the Guardians movies, but then he's also the stand-in for Rocket. So technically, he is Rocket on
Ah,
set,
gotcha.
but he's not.
But he's not okay. So
Not
no, he
yeah.
plays one character,
Um,
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
The so we are introduced to a lot of characters, which
Mhm.
I don't know if necessarily is like a negative because I do think that what they show of them, I am at least okay with.
I mark it as a negative,
You mark it as a negative?
but here I like all of them.
Hmm.
But for me, too much going on.
Yes. So one of the reviews that I saw,
Mhm.
people were comparing this to Aquaman.
Which I still haven't seen.
Oh, I feel like this is a better Aquaman,
Okay.
where like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters being introduced. There's some that go away for a while and then don't show up until they're narratively necessary.
Like warrior princess lady with abs.
Like we're a princess with yep,
Yep.
with very stereotypical battle armor.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Which is fine. And I think like anytime she showed up, I was like, I know exactly what her character needs to be.
Right.
Do I need to know the intricacies of her apparently very, very tragic backstory? No.
Yeah.
But when she's on screen, she's here
She's here
to
to
kick ass and take
kick
names.
ass, take names, be sad of injustice,
Be sad at the injustice
rally
and
the
all that.
troops, make peace with the white man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I do like that with that introduction of multiple characters, we're introduced to like a lot of really weird looking
I
characters.
love the doorknob looking thing.
The guy with the glowy head,
Yeah,
yeah, he was dope as fuck. The
was.
was. We joked about him. His name is Veb.
Ebb
He's the Veb is the guy with the goop,
with the goop.
which gave us probably my biggest laugh, where he was like, "Oh, you have a big mouth, a big hole in your face. How many holes do you
I
have?"
love the holes.
And the guy goes, "He's got 7
Yeah.
holes." And fucking Scott
That's the
just has to count. And he goes, "Oh yeah,
I counted
I
two.
counted." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that checks out."
Two nostrils, 2 ears, a
So not
mouth,
in a booty
a booty, and a
in the
peepee.
pee hole,
Yeah.
which is a great joke, and it also let that like beat hang
Just enough.
just enough.
Yes.
A little longer, I feel, would have been overcooked.
And you know what? It's textbook Marvel.
Textbook Marvel,
It's textbook Marvel, and it works.
but it works.
This movie was not too funny. And when
No,
and I've heard that critique a lot, it's it, it's a little heavy on the jokes maybe towards the end, but I never felt they undercut anything.
no, and I think that the reason why that works with this the most is because of they were able to balance the comedy a little bit better.
That and also if there's any of the superheroes in the Marvel pantheon that don't need tension undercut, it is
Yeah, man.
Ant-Man.
Yeah,
In fact,
it's fucking silly.
that's why I actually think the post-credit scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp works so well, is because like historically these films have been like appendix pieces where they follow a big Avengers movie. They're like, all right, now let's deflate with some comedy, right? These films themselves are the things that sort of like deflate tension
Hmm.
in the bigger one. And then when you end like Ant-Man and the Wasp with the fucking blip, you're like,
Yeah,
oh shit, I
yeah,
forgot.
yeah. Which is weird because I remember watching the movie. I was like, "Where the fuck does this take place?" I remember thinking that a
Yeah.
couple times, and it wasn't until like the last scene where I was like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, so this is where we
Yeah.
are," which made sense, and there was a good beat. But I do think in this movie where it differs from, let's say, Love and Thunder,
Mhm.
is that like when the serious shit is hitting, they let the seriousness linger, right? Like no one's cracking jokes
Right.
when Kang is like threatening to like basically kill Cassie and making him relive it,
Yeah.
right? We get our really good introduction to Jonathan Majors. Well, not introduction because he was already here
A big
as
screen
a
introduction.
as a different, yeah, but
Yeah.
in big screen, right? And I know that considering the end, I don't know if this is the version that we're going to be getting.
Do we know if this king is dead?
They say he is, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think so because
Eh,
he just kind of like disappears.
This is interesting. We have Kang. Well, Kang less dubious because there's the Council of Kangs, but
Yes.
we've got that Kang, and then we have
What's his name? Ramatut, and then Victor Timely, I think, is the guy at the end.
yeah,
So we have a few versions of Kang pop up in this movie, but the one that we are like left with for the majority of it is King the Conqueror,
yeah,
right? And he's the one who is like
the Conqueror.
he is the king, which is why I think they introduce him and they kind of want us to think he's dead. I don't think this version of King is dead.
Mm.
I would feel like it's kind of a mistake if they let him.
Well, just like we don't think that the Scarlet Witch is dead, or Wanda Prime is dead.
Yeah.
619, right? Is that who would be Wanda 619? I don't know.
Uh,
Anyway,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
616.
Yes,
Yeah.
excuse me. 661. I think it's interesting though that we have both of these like pivotal villain or villainish characters
Hmm.
who are left in both their films just with like very
Yeah.
dubious fates.
And also I think the fact that this is the king out of all the kings
Mhm.
that the council felt was
Needed to go.
needed to go. I
Yeah,
feel like that's why this king needs to be the one to come back,
yeah.
right? It's we really are all over the place with this, but it's
I
fine
mean,
because it's a
it's
Marvel
Quantumania.
movie, right?
Yeah,
So we touched a little bit on the CG and this movie. And there was one thought that I had about it is I know that they used the volume again for this quite a bit.
Mm.
I feel that out of all the movies recently that used the volume extensively, I feel like this is the one that doesn't feel as restricted by it.
By what do you say?
By like the special effects of the volume.
Oh, okay.
Because like when you're using the volume, like you're essentially like in a room
Yeah.
surrounded by screens. So there really is so much you can do.
There
Mm,
was a couple points where like Scott and Cassie were walking. I'm like, okay, this is them clearly walking in front of
mhm.
like blank space. But it didn't. I don't. It never bothered me.
Mhm. And it helps that like everything, not every, but like pretty much most of the things that we were shown felt pretty polished.
Yeah.
There was one scene when Janet's talking to the weird crab people at first. They take her to visit
When they're at the bar.
before the bar when they're like in the deserty looking
Oh
area,
yeah.
and she like chops the guy's arm off, stabs him in the chest, and they
And
hug.
they're cool. Yeah.
Um, that like the jellyfish, it's like a pink flying jellyfish,
The spaceship.
looked
Yeah.
awful. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh really?
Um,
I
it,
thought it looked cool.
it wasn't the spaceship. It
Okay.
wasn't that. It was another. So there's like two really weird looking like rides,
Yeah.
right? There's like one looks like a chainsaw that's like horizontal,
Right.
and then there's another like pink glowy like jellyfish that circles them a few times, and that looks really. It looked really like fake water CG.
Interesting.
It looked really odd. Then they show the like the weird giant like gray jellyfish that they ride on.
Okay.
That one I felt looked better, but everything after that I think looked pretty good.
I think it also helps that these things are colorful. They have many splashes of personality.
Hmm.
The concepts are creative, right?
And you can only,
Buildings are alive.
yeah, you can only get so weird with
Mm.
these things, right? Like one of the things that I always complain or not complain, but like think it's kind of strange about Star Wars is that like everything is essentially just a human with something,
Right.
right? You have Ahsoka who's like a human with like weird like tentacles
I
coming out of her
forget what the
head.
actual name is, but
I
yes, yeah,
if I don't
yeah,
if you don't know,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna
yeah.
fucking know. But like everything essentially looks like a human with something. I feel like in this one, what we still do get a few of those
That are
that
humanoid.
are human or humanoid. There are some that are just like weird, like crab or like amoeba looking things,
Many protozoan creatures
mhm.
in this film.
And I liked that idea.
I liked I liked the CGI menagerie so much to the extent like I would like to see this cast of background characters again at some point.
I would like a
Yeah,
show
yeah.
set in the quantum realm with just these like
I don't know if I would go show, but I would like some of them to make an appearance again. I don't
I
need to
think
see like
they
the
probably
yeah,
would.
yeah,
My thinking is if Secret Wars is like as stacked as it's supposed to, I
right.
could see a few of these characters showing up at the end for like a big like end game style battle.
Like I don't need the Chithari. Um I don't need those like cannibals who like try to eat Thor at the beginning of Ragnarok, right?
Hmm.
But I do kind of want these little bugs and
Yeah, because
critters. Yeah,
they're silly.
they're silly, they're fun, they're
they're kind of
creative.
fun,
Yeah.
and that's something that does happen in Aquaman.
Mm,
Like it's just a big at the end. Like they gather all like the different like underwater kingdoms, and they have this huge battle. And there are these weird like crab monsters. There's some sea monsters. There's some
mm,
like mermaid people, but like they're not very interesting.
mm,
So like when shit's going down, you're like, I don't give a fuck.
right.
Like there's these giant like crab machines just stomping the fuck out of all these people.
Mhm,
You're like, I have no interest in what the fuck is happening.
yeah.
But like it's pretty telling that even though they weren't very fleshed out or shown very much, like when the face glowy hammer guy
Yeah.
like gets got, I was
Yeah.
like, oh damn,
I was
no, my
sad.
homie.
I was sad.
Yeah,
And I was sad even though in the moment I was also thinking, and I could have been more sad, right? It was
yeah.
this is to me the enjoyable tricky part about reviewing this movie because it is very antithetical to what like general critique of pop culture wants to do, where either something is like dog shit or like fantastic,
Hmm.
right? Where I'm like, there's many flaws for me in this movie. There's many good things about me in this movie. Like I have to rate this one like middle of the road,
Hmm.
and I think he is like a very good microcosm of that. Where I was like, I'm sad because you were cute and lovable and like vulnerable and tough, and at the same point, I wish I had more of you early on.
Yeah, and that's I don't disagree with
Yeah.
you on that. Um, a couple of the things that I do want to touch on. Well, one big one is Modoc because he has probably the biggest change
From the
from
comics.
the comics and from kind of like what people were expecting.
So in the comics, he's not Peter Russo from House of Cards. AKA, he's not Yellow Jacket.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So in this movie, they make the change. It's Corey Stoll is the actor, right? Derek, I
Yeah.
believe is the
Darren.
name. Darren.
Right.
Yeah. And so Darren becomes Kang's lackey essentially,
Yeah.
right? And I think people are being too hard on Modoc's look.
The like the stretched out face
Like
or
the
the
way he looks.
okay.
And I'm
Let me
like,
Google Modoc because I don't know what comic Modoc looks like. But keep going.
it's just like when you take something that is supposed to look like a human face,
Right.
just massively stretched out,
Yeah.
you're basically making a character that's a face with arms and legs, like no body whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
It's going to look ridiculously stupid.
Correct. Does he
And
also
then,
have a whole bunch of weapons attached to him, like a Digimon in the comics?
kind of,
Yeah.
he's got like his like suit has like stuff on it.
Yeah.
And so like that's what it is. It's just an inherently stupid character. So
It looks exactly like it does in the
it looks just like it.
yeah.
Like I think
What did people want? Like I don't get it.
I
I
yeah.
think this is the perfect character to do to this is the perfect character to emasculate with making him like defeated Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I do like the way the way his character ends when they're just like, dude, you're just being a dick for the sake of being a dick.
Yeah.
And do I think that the character turn this has like
No, it's definitely
warranted? No.
but the characters are at least kind of aware that the way they're framed does make them they're happy that like they're happy that he stops being a dick, but they're like, oh, this came out of the
Yeah.
characters recognize this came out of
Yeah,
control.
they're like, oh, okay. And then he's like, at least I can
Right.
die an Avenger.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But I do like that, he's like a secondary villain, but he's one that like you're you're able to kind of play around with a little bit more.
Yeah.
There really is no playing around with like King,
No.
right?
But like the people who wanted, I heard a lot of people compare this to Taskmaster. I know very little about Taskmaster. I can better see how people were mad about Taskmaster, even though I still think that's stupid. I feel like people who feel like this character was like mutilated and character assassinated
Yeah.
are
So
dumb.
I don't want to say that it's because like these people get attached to certain characters and like
It's a big head.
it's yeah. He is weirdly popular.
It's the guy who lives in the big wrestling guy in Ninja Turtles. Isn't there another Marvel villain who's also or was I always just thinking of Modoc?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Because Modoc has like recently gained some popularity because there is a show on Hulu about Modoc.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like an animated show, and I know when they canceled it recently, it was like a big like people were very upset. So I don't know. Maybe that show was actually good, and people were like looking for that.
I mean,
But at the same time,
if it was good, we would have heard about it. Oh, and the brain thing in Ninja Turtles is named
Krang.
Krang.
Yep,
Yeah, yeah,
yep. The
yeah,
guy living in the tummy of the other guy.
yeah.
But so he's one of our antagonists. The other antagonist that kind of pops up briefly is Bill Murray,
Yeah,
who I honestly I could have done without. It was a funny like couple of bits.
there was a fascinating point actually, and I don't I being fascinating where they're talking about humans. And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's what you call yourselves, humans."
Hmm.
And it did make me wonder. I'm like, "Oh yeah, like why, like in Marvel land, like why this species, like so, like why is our species so prevalent, like everywhere, right?
Hmm.
In the very big and the very small, like other worlds." I found that very interesting. Um,
But I mean, isn't that the same as like in other like sci-fi?
I know why it happens from a practical storytelling
Yeah,
perspective because we're going to tell like who we are.
yeah.
But I mean, in terms of what like the universe is in like explanation of that is, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But his whole, ooh, excuse me, um, yeah, he's superfluous
Oh, for
to
sure.
the film.
There's a couple of funny lines where like he talks about kind of basically banging
Yeah,
Michelle Pfeiffer, who, by the way, Michelle Pfeiffer,
Michelle Pfeiffer,
goddamn dude,
and
she
she
looks.
also definitely banged King.
Oh, I think
I
so.
mean, it's never hinted at, but like
I mean,
she
you look
banged.
at that man.
You look at that man. You look
That
at
is a
that woman.
handsome
That
man.
is a handsome.
Have you seen his cover for his other movie,
The one that the
uh,
is he wearing,
Magazine Dreams?
he's wearing some boots.
What?
Is he wearing some boots in the cover?
And is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Goddamn,
Yeah.
that man is built like a fucking truck.
Yeah.
And so they have they do a pretty solid job also, I think, at telling us why she initially works with him
Hmm.
and then why she then escapes. The only thing that I don't like is the whole her being so like cagey about everything and dodgy, which I feel like could have helped avoid.
It's odd. The also the framing of it, like I get the escape, but the framing of it makes them seem like they are truly like isolated together.
Hmm.
Like while they're working on his like while they're working on his ship. Whereas everybody else in the quantum realm does know like her. So I
Yeah.
kind of wish like the way they filmed that they made it more visually clear that like oh they're interacting with other people.
And I don't
Yeah.
know if that was necessarily a her thing, because and that's kind of what I mean with like I don't know how much time she was actually down there.
Yeah.
Like in Earth time,
Right.
it's 30 years.
Right.
But in the movie, she's like, "Oh yeah, we worked together for a few years fixing his ship, and then when I saw what he wanted to do, I was like, nah, fuck off."
Yeah.
Right? But then they show that he built this like huge empire and conquered like all of this stuff in the quantum realm.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that is not something that you just do very quickly.
Well, that and also Bill Murray says like oh to some people she's a freedom fighter, to some people she's a terrorist, and I'm like
She
well
says that to her. She says that to
well during that scene yes,
yeah,
but then I'm like okay, but that's not what we saw. We saw them isolated together,
exactly.
building a
Yeah,
thing
we
together.
didn't really see
Yeah.
any of her interaction with any of the other groups.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just because they didn't want to like spend time.
Which is a shame because I think with more time, this movie could have been an S tier movie.
Yes. Question:
Hmm.
did you feel like they de-aged her
From the last one,
when she's talking to Kang, because she looked the same.
I don't remember.
And I was like, when she got sucked into the quantum realm, she
Hmm.
was relatively younger. I mean, they have that flashback of Michael Douglas in the first movie, and he looks way younger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did they just like assume that she was alone for that many years, and it wasn't until very close to the end of her tenure there that she met Kang? Because she, at that point, I thought the interaction they were showing at the beginning was her finding her way out. But then it wasn't until like I saw Kang like crawling around.
I think she looked the same age throughout this movie. For whatever reason, actually, while watching this movie, I wondered if she looked a little younger than the last movie. But I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen Ant Man and the Wasp
Hmm.
in a fat minute.
And so I don't know if it's just because like they're like, ah, yeah, she looks hot enough.
Yeah.
Let's just leave her alone. We don't have to de-age her. People will buy into it.
Yeah.
But I think if they wanted us to buy into the fact that she was helping him initially, like long, 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 long time ago, early into her time being in the quantum realm, and then she spent like some of the last years fighting against him. Like she just looked like she was about ready to leave the quantum realm age wise.
Yes.
Unless she was there for, like I said, if they had been like, oh yeah, it was 30 years, but I was not there for like 300 years,
Uh,
I feel like that would have made more sense.
there's so as a recent with this movie, the two writers have come under some slack. I don't know their names. I just know that I guess they're Rick and Morty writers, and they've written
Hmm.
a few things in Phase Four. Um, and I've seen people on like Reddit being like, "Ah, these like Rick and Morty writers." Like, I'm tired of like people thinking Rick and Morty writers should be writing everything, especially like the MCU.
Hmm.
So maybe I can just chalk this up to Rick and Morty writer in
Maybe.
over their headedness. But I don't know. That's a good point.
I
A
don't
good
know.
point. Yeah.
But I mean, it is, I guess, in a way understandable because Rick and Morty does have a lot of stuff with like multiverses and like
Yeah.
time travel and all this weird, like, having multiple characters are the same, doing the same thing. So like in a way I kind of get that. My issue with Rick and Morty honestly is not the Rick and Morty of it, is just I just don't like the characters.
I've never seen an episode.
It's
I,
okay. It's really not that bad. I hate the fans more than anything.
yeah, the fans suck.
The fans fucking suck. Um, but I still think it still does not like make me feel like it's solely that is an issue here.
I see.
And there's still a lot that does work in this. Like I said, Kang himself is very good.
Kang's excellent.
Um,
Like I said, I think every individual piece works. Even though we talked about Bill Murray being superfluous, I like the Bill Murray character. I like his performance. I like that whole bar.
mhm.
I like the way that Hank uses the big Pym particle to get one of the little
Oh,
squid.
the
Yeah.
the little squid thingies, right?
Yeah, to eat him. I love all of that. I'm like, I just wish some of this had more to breathe, and I wish some of the subplots could dominate the film more
Yeah.
than they do.
So speaking of Michael Douglas, one of the things that I thought was pretty funny was he was pretty instrumental in the last movie
Yes.
and in the first one, right? Him and Hope training Scott in the first one.
Mhm.
Last movie is more focused on Scott and a bit
Oh,
on Hope. And then in this one, I just love that he's kind of just in the background, just taking everything in.
she's driving, man.
There's that fucking scene where he's like, "Holy shit, that guy looks like broccoli." And I don't know, I just think it's so funny to have Hank, who his whole life has been studying the
Right.
quantum realm, but like never really getting to experience it.
Still being blown
But
away.
now he's there, he's being blown away by all
Yeah.
this shit. I just thought that was very funny.
And he read Scott's book.
He read Scott's
He
book,
read every word.
which is kind of cute.
Yeah,
'Cause
very
he's
cute.
he's like his proxy dad,
Exactly.
right?
Well,
And which is kind of weird.
if Cassie's grandpa, then yeah, or Cassie's his granddaughter, quote unquote, then yeah, like he's straight up his proxy
Which,
dad.
now that you mention that, that's true.
Yeah.
That does feel weird now that you
You could
mention that.
very much like see this movie like the Ant-Mans, as underrated as they are. I feel like they're not on anybody's rewatch list for the most part.
No,
I feel like you could very much go into this movie forgetting that the Pims are not, um,
Cassie's biological grandparents.
or they're not Scott's biological parents, even though that would make it weird, like incest with Hope. But yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's so weird, man. I just, yeah,
yeah,
you're right. 'Cause, yeah, he does call him. She does call him Grandpa Hank
multiple times,
multiple times.
right? And Michelle Pfeiffer is grandma,
Yeah,
which once again, back to the time thing, she would have only known
because they're
Michelle.
not married.
The Pims,
No, no, no.
open.
Hope and
No, they're not
Scott,
married. They're not
right? They're
married.
just together.
But then once again, if this is a couple years after the blip, like that's a pretty fast like. All right.
We need hard numbers on these timelines.
We need
In
okay.
this timeline.
This could be a big picture talk, but I think we also need a main character for the MCU.
Yeah, because we lost that with
Yeah, I don't know who the main character is.
I don't.
It's Captain America and Iron Man in
Yeah,
the Infinity Saga.
for sure.
Yes.
There is no doubt
Right.
about that. No one will argue. I could say that my hope would have been that Doctor Strange
I
could
was
be it,
I thought it would
but
be Wanda.
we don't
I
know.
still kind of think it could be Loki. I was thinking Loki and Wanda at
Yeah,
first, but it hasn't been cemented at this point, which is where I'm apprehensive on like where they've ended these phases so far.
yeah, strange.
Strange.
I don't know. So let's talk now about moving forward, right? So, how do you feel like this sets up Phase 5?
Kang feels like a threat.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
it's interesting. We're kind of at the point where like you know how you leave Infinity War with like X amount of knowledge on Thanos and like X amount of character growth on Thanos and how Thanos is kind of like the main character of that movie.
Yeah.
You're not quite at this level with like Kang yet. He hasn't gotten main character status of this movie,
No, and I
but
think my only as much as I do think he is a scary dude,
yeah,
right? Like whenever he shows up and like it's him versus someone, I'm like, oh, I do feel like the person going up against him is fucked,
yep,
right? Like I don't think Scott should have survived
yeah.
that fight with him.
The ending, the end. Okay, so this I think about this with movies too much now. Now that I am adamant about my letterbox account,
Sure.
and we have this. I think way too much about the star ratings I'm going to give my movies. Right, way too much. And I was like, okay, right now we're hovering 3 or 2.5, like seal the deal. And then towards the end, I was like, okay, like we could be rising to 3.5, like great movie. The ending for me for this movie was also very frustrating, and part of it
Hmm.
has to do with what you're talking about. Like, it early on, it does show how Kang could just like wreck shit.
Dude, he
Like,
like grabbed like just flick of a wrist
yeah,
and they're upside down and
exactly.
against the wall.
Um, but then like Ant Man's tech is not like good enough
No,
to
you're
beat.
just big or
Yeah,
small. That's it.
and then maybe if they had like either threaded a bit more of the story with the ants
Hmm.
or the rebels, then you're like, I will buy that teamwork was enough to save the day
Hmm.
today, right? But that didn't stick to me. That didn't stick the landing, which then made the question mark of like, how can Scott beat him unscathed? Stick the landing. And the weird thing is, they have an opportunity
Well,
to not let.
they do have their cop out, right?
Yeah,
Which is Scott alone would not have beat
no,
Kang,
yeah,
right? So Scott, even Scott, Cassie, and the rebels were not.
right.
But it was the
It was the
ants,
ants.
right? The ants overwhelmed him. They
Yeah,
basically wrecked his suit, which is where his power is,
it's
right?
in a soup.
Like
Yeah,
it's not that he is super strong,
right.
it's
It's
he
all
has
his
all
tech.
this tech.
It's all his tech.
All this like very
Yeah.
futuristic, 3,000 years in the future tech, whatever it is,
Which, and
right?
the interesting thing that does then potentially make Ant Man a good foil for Kang because
Very
Ant Man
basic, right?
Ant Man 2's power is only in his tech.
In his
It's
tech.
not in him.
And when they're going one on one, like just, hand to hand,
Yeah.
Scott's getting his ass beat.
Dude, as a very quick aside, Ant Man fucking needs some wings.
So Katie and I had
This
this
is
chat.
some bullshit.
I looked at Katie and I was like, dude, why doesn't Cassie have wings?
Yeah.
I understand why Scott maybe doesn't have
No,
wings because like that's the suit. Maybe you don't want to mess with
no, he
it. He
needs
used
some
to write
wings.
Antony,
He needs some wings.
but I was like, there's a point where like Cassie's trying, like I think she's like making a jump,
Yeah.
and I'm like, she's not gonna make that jump.
Yeah.
She needs some wings,
Yeah.
and that suit's newer,
Right.
so why not?
Yeah. Now
You know,
Wasp can't get big, right?
I don't know if she can. I just think they just choose not to.
Okay. Because I get it. I'm like, okay, she can fly. He can get big. That's where we have some difference. But like, there's points where I'm like, ah, if he could fly right now,
It's so much
that's one
easier,
fewer obstacle.
right?
Yeah.
Speaking of obstacles, my favorite scene in the movie is when they're in the probability storm.
I like it. I like
That
it quite a
that
bit.
scene was really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the visuals in it.
I like Baskin Robbins.
Baskin
It's done.
Robbins,
Yeah.
yep. I think that was probably like the most like effective
Hmm.
scene for like Ant-Man when they're all like fighting against each other and it's not until they realize we gotta save Cassie
Yeah.
that they all work together and they're like a hive mind.
And visually, that works very well.
And it looked, yeah,
Yeah.
it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And then also having Hope show up and just,
Yeah.
hi, I'm in the title card too.
Right.
There we go.
But she shows up while flying.
She shows up while
Yeah.
flying. Um, but I do like that. What's her face? Janet's the one that kind of walks him through it, and
Mm.
walks her
Hmm.
because she's like, "What the fuck's up with all these people?" She's like, "You just gotta focus. Like, ignore
Right.
them. Like, they're not. They shouldn't bother you. If you stay on your task,
Yeah.
right?" So I do like that she's more of a main character in this movie. Hope, not Hope. Sorry,
Janet.
Janet.
Yeah.
Right, she does bring in a lot of insight. One thing that I did notice, they did the exact same like hero move with her about 4 or 5 times, where she's surrounded by two people on like one guy on the left, one guy on the right. She
Mm.
looks at their gun and like does something with their gun. I don't
Uh,
know if you noticed, she did it at least 3 or 4 times.
Cassie or
Janet,
Janet? Yeah.
Janet herself, like she's being escorted by two guards,
Yeah.
and she takes out the two guards by like looking at the gun and then grabbing it and like drop kicking them or something.
And Cassie, I think, also does that too at
She
once.
might.
Yeah. Yeah.
She gets makes one guy really big. He like sticks through the ceiling,
Yeah.
and then she like punches the other guy, or she makes him smaller and kicks him.
Yeah.
Right. But I do want to see more of Cassie.
Same.
I think she has potential. I think
Thunderbird? No, not Thunderbirds. Yeah. What's the one? Do they have the Young Avengers cast lined up yet or no? No,
they
they don't.
don't have a Young
They
Avengers
don't.
yet. I know that that's what everybody thinks is
So
eventually going to happen
it,
because I mean
it's Ant-Man and the Wasp villain who's going to be in Thunderbolts.
the
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbolts, you have
Yeah.
Ghost,
Yeah.
who apparently not anymore.
Good.
But here's the thing: she's the one who has the most interesting power set out of all the people.
I
'Cause
get
everybody else is just like, I can punch,
I get it, but like
she
she's
can
like
phase through shit.
I get it, but she's pre Endgame, she's pre COVID, like
I guess, I
yeah,
guess, bless her heart. She's been in a few things.
right.
The actress as like Carmen
San
something,
Diego,
not Carmen San Diego.
yeah,
But she's been in Ready Player One.
right.
She plays like a villain who was made
Hmm.
for the book. Like she's an original, sorry, for the movie, an original movie character,
Mm,
and it's just like I feel so bad for her because she just does not get roles that are good.
yeah,
Hannah John Kamen, not
okay.
Kamen. Uh, she was in Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City as Jill Valentine, and that was not a good role.
Ooh,
Uh, she was in this movie, and she was like kind of forgettable. Like they just didn't do a lot with her,
pobrecita.
but she has potential to like do some good shit.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't know. I want to see her back, but I don't know. So I know we're wrapping up here soon. We talked about setting up. I feel
right.
like they did an okay job.
Yes,
Again, it's the beginning of the phase. We don't know how much course correction they'll do or how they'll end it. But if they can make some changes and make on a good path, I think they're
I saw that the only Disney Plus shows for Marvel that are confirmed to come out this year are Loki and see, no, not even Secret Wars.
what if? What
Oh,
if is coming? Secret Invasion, you mean?
yeah, is that the other one?
Secret Invasion.
So
Secret Invasion is the Nick Fury one.
Right.
It's
It's confirmed to come out this year.
I think so.
So if that's the case, I think that's at least opportunity for some course correction where we can really like fine tune
Hmm.
the story.
I mean, they already
Yeah.
pushed some things out. They moved Captain Marvel to November.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one
Hmm.
because I'm wondering what's happening with Monica Rambeau.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I liked all three of those characters.
I
Honestly,
liked all
like
three. I loved Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Carol Danvers, I like her enough,
yeah.
and I think Monica Rambeau is a good addition. So I'm excited for that. We said we don't think King is dead, so that answers that question that I had. We talked about the ending scenes,
Yes.
right? So that pretty much wraps it up for us.
Yeah.
If we were to place this really quick
Oh, and our tier.
in our tier list,
What
uh,
did I do for Wakanda Forever?
wow, I think we put Wakanda Forever at a B or an A.
Okay. This is where I really wish I had a B minus. Because it's more to okay. This is where rating is tough. Because to me, this was more fun than Wakanda Forever, but also to me more frustrating than Wakanda Forever.
So we don't have an official like MCU tier list,
But we had one
but we
for
have a
Phase
Phase
Four. Yeah,
Four.
Phase Four.
We put we put Wakanda Forever at
Wow.
B.
Wow. All right. And what's in C?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier and What If. I
Okay,
don't
this
think
is B. This is
no,
B. Yeah, because this is better than both.
but I like this more than I like Black Widow and Eternals. We
Yes,
put
but it's
Loki, Hawkeye, and
okay.
She-Hulk at A.
So Black Widow, I'm willing to put towards the bottom of the B's. Eternals, I don't think Eternals was like Eternals kind of boring, but it's not like it's not broken in the way this one is.
Hmm.
So I'll put this better than Black Widow. Worse than Black Panther because Black Panther has more of an excuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can I would be okay with putting it at B then. Like a mid B.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for our Ant-Man and the Wasp. Very all over the place.
It's
Quantumania Bash.
Quantumania Bash.
Um,
The MCU,
the
baby doll.
MCU baby doll. At this point, like it's all kind of blending together.
Yeah.
But we'll see where we go from here with
For content.
more content coming up soon. We should have a new
How soon?
episode.
How soon for MCU?
Uh,
Guardians?
yeah, Guardians is May.
Okay.
And I think What If is April, maybe.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck about either. All right.
Yeah.
On that note, this has been the Cine-Scoots podcast. He is Thano,
He's Javier.
and we will be back soon. Bye.
Bye.